Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Sweet Spot. This is your host, Ryan Embry, here for another special edition of The Sweet Spot. I am so excited to bring in our guest today. We're going to be talking about everything in the Best Western Hotels and Resorts brand, but also marketing. That is Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer, Joelle Park. Thank you so much, Joelle, for being on The Sweet Spot with me today.
Thank you for having me, Ryan.
We're going to have a great conversation about marketing, about your wonderful brand, some of the recognitions that the brand has seen recently, and we're going to talk about some industry trends as well. But as per tradition here at the Sweet Spot, and really hospitality, we love to hear everyone's kind of journey, story that led you in. You know, sometimes we have people just fall into the industry, but at the end of the day, a lot of people fall in love with our industry because hospitality is one of the, if not best industries to work in. Talk to us a little bit about your story, Joelle, and what led you to SVP and CMO at Best Western Hotel and Resorts.
Thanks, Ryan. Well, I'm really excited to be here, and it sounds like many others, I have fallen into hospitality and fallen in love. I've spent over 2 decades in marketing overall, working across brand strategy, customer experience, communications. And on every project, every account, it's about driving results through innovative marketing. Early in my career, I started agency side, and I partnered with some incredible brands in retail, entertainment, technology. And my last client was hospitality. And that's where I fell in love with the industry. And now I've spent really more than, 16 years in hospitality, telling compelling stories. I have a love of travel personally, but I also just believe in the power of travel to make the world a better place. So I've been fortunate to take on some leadership roles, spanning across loyalty now, product development, and something I'm especially passionate about is culture and customer experience, because the most powerful form of advertising really is the customer experience. Here at BWH Hotels, I have the privilege of leading our marketing, communications, loyalty, and partnerships teams. And that's encompassing of Best Western Rewards and World Hotels Rewards. So excited to share more about what we're up to.
Yeah, it's exciting to hear. And it's interesting because hospitality, you talk to a lot of hoteliers in the hospitality world, and they say, although it's a massive industry, right? It's a very small world. You run into people that you know all the time. Sometimes you're working with one brand, then you go to another brand. But I always find it fascinating to find stories like yours, Joelle, where you start outside of hospitality maybe, and then find your way into it. Because I do think that really does show the passion and love that people have towards our industry, because once that bug, and it happens in travel too, it grabs a hold of you, it's hard to let go. And here you are, and a lot of the hospitality professionals that I've spoken to, they've had that exposure to other industries, and there's just something about hospitality that is so special. And I think you nailed it on the head about talking about the power that travel has. And one of the things within travel is storytelling. And I've heard you in other interviews talk about your passion and storytelling, especially particularly in marketing. How has that shaped your approach to local storytelling at the hotel level, to create really what we're all trying to crave right now, I think, in this world with technology and AI, which is authentic connection between a hotel and your guest?
Well, I'm very fortunate because the authentic connection is happening all over. And so I didn't have to manufacture anything. I've marketed a lot of different things, and sometimes it's harder than others to unearth the purpose-driven story behind a brand. But in hospitality, it's so clear. And at BWH Hotels, a lot of people don't realize we have 18 brands within the portfolio, 4,000 hotels around the world. So Best Western is just one of many. And so first of all, telling the story of the portfolio, and that's number one. I had no idea. And I thought, if others don't know, I've got to go and help them tell this story. But part two is shining a spotlight on the stories that are already happening at the local level. And the beauty of what we've been doing here the last 2 years with the storytelling through our campaign, Life's a Trip, and through our overall marketing is it started with inspiration from what was happening in that guest to hotel staff interaction naturally. our hotel team members were sharing their favorite things about the area because they're the soul of the destination where these travelers are. And so all I had to do, and my team and I, was listen and spend a lot of time at the front lines at the hotels, listening to our team members, listening to guests. And over again, we heard about the power of these small moments in a stay where our staff, or even maybe it was through guest messaging, not just person to person, but they were making these local recommendations and unlocked how we enable experience. And that's why this idea of Life's a Trip was born. So the story sort of told itself, born out of the local level.
It's so cool. And I'll go back to your point, Joelle, about talking about, manufacturing, because I think right now in a time, we crave authentic experiences and moments in our lives. And I think as consumers, we have gotten, especially the younger generation, really, really good at being able to see what's real and what's not real. And you're absolutely right. I think, for the hoteliers that listen to this podcast know, I mean, between the interactions that you're having online through social media, reviews, and just everyday moments at the property, there's just so much special that happens there, right? And as you mentioned, just unearthing that and being able to have a place and a forum to share those stories, such powerful marketing. And if that comes off as organic, if that comes off as true and real, that's when you have something really, really special. And obviously being recognized, I've seen the brand in the news lately, recognized by USA Today 2025 Readers' Choice Awards, several accolades, including Best Loyalty Program, which is awesome, and Best Extended Stay Hotel for Sure Stay Studio. As marketers, we love to see these type of recognitions, right? That means more getting to get the megaphone out and sharing all the great news about it. But what does this mean? These recognitions mean to you, and really how travelers feel about the loyalty program and the Sure Stay brand?
I think it's all about value, the value that we provide that then in return makes us a brand and a loyalty program that guests value. So let's start with the rewards program. Best Western Rewards, 64 million members, I think a testament to the power of it. But what a lot of people might not realize is we have brands spanning the category, everything from our luxury and upscale brands, World Hotels, all the way through economy and Sure Stay. So I think people see the value in the program because they're earning these points, and there is a hotel for every type of trip occasion. We also have a number of independent and collection hotels, and people are seeking experiences. You said it, Ryan, authentic experiences. And what better way than these collection hotels that allow the independent experience to shine? And the points don't expire. And that's really unique in the industry. That's our commitment to say you earn these points with your hard-earned travel. And so you deserve to spend them where and how you want. So that's a big differentiator. I think part of what contributes to that award-winning loyalty. As it relates to Shore Stay Studio, this is a great brand. It's a best extended stay hotel brand. And it meets the needs of today's evolving traveler with the kitchenette for short or really long term. And it's not just for work, but for vacationers, families. Multi-generational family is a trend, and we see that. So some of the amenities we provide at something like Shore Stay Studio appeal to today's travelers.
It's so great. And seeing the travel trends, and we're going to kind of talk about that, but to have a loyalty program, kind of blend with the eclectic brands that you have at BWH Hotels, it really does make it kind of the perfect stay for any type of traveler out there, because you see that travel is not just segmented into one particular area anymore, right? We're seeing more and more of a blend of people saying, hey, I want to extend my work vacation a little bit more. Maybe I do want to bring, my parents to look after the kids while, me and the wife go explore the area. These types of trips and travel are really starting to blend here, and keeping a close ear and eye to the ground. And it's going to be those brands that have positioned themselves well to kind of be able to welcome any and all type of travelers that are going to do the best. So switching gears, Joelle, Larry Kukulik, president and CEO of BWH Hotels, recently shared on LinkedIn that at Best Western Hotels, we view technology as a strategic enabler for providing a great guest experience. Today, we're using technology and AI to continue to reshape the guest journey. And I think I find this quote so fascinating because maybe other industries, we've talked about this, AI and technology can be easily implemented, and there because there's not so much of a human touch to it. But in hospitality, you almost have to be a little cautious and going full AI and technology, because at the core of this, it is a very human connection, white glove service. You're hosting people in a home, right? At a hotel. So how do you kind of find that balance? How is Best Western kind of find that balance there between human touch and technology?
Our philosophy is you don't focus on technology for technology's sake. You focus on technology and innovation to power what you uniquely offer to the world. And what we uniquely offer is taking care of people. So then the question we ask is, how can technology help us take care of people? And the great thing is, when you put that power, that innovation in front of your frontline team members, you can help them be more efficient in what they have to do so that they can focus on what they love to do, which is taking care of the guest. So as an example, check-in. Check-in requires a lot of different steps that happen behind the scenes. And I like to think of it like a duck on the water. The guests should just see the ducks gliding seamlessly over the water. But you know what's happening under that? It's a lot of piddling. And that's what our frontline team members are doing at the front desk to check them in efficiently, get them in the right room, make sure it's clean, make sure they're recognized for loyalty. So if we can use technology to simplify that for them, make it so obvious at their fingertips or in their visual what they need to know about that guest, guess what? The majority of that time, they're going to focus more on delivering great service. And that's what we are in service of and how we're partnering with our technology team here.
I absolutely love that. I mean, listen, as a front desk agent, more than a decade ago, the memories that I have from that position, Joelle, is exactly what you were talking about. It wasn't, the hundreds of check-ins or checkouts that I did over the span of the week. It was actually the conversations that I had with those guests. And a lot of that conversation happened after I had to get through all the rigmarole of the check-in process, right? So if there's a place where we can get to where we can, make things more efficient at check-in, even any really touch points of the guest experience, and be able to get to that place of connection, being able to say, what brings you into town? I'd love to do some recommendations, because as a traveler, as you were speaking to with the local storytelling, what we crave as travelers is to feel a part of a community, right? So when we come into an area, we don't want to go to the same places that we could go, right down the block of where we left. We want to see the best places in town, to see the best views, to get the best places to eat. And front desk agents are the frontline workers there, and your first kind of string into what is that community like there. So anytime that you can, I love to hear leaders in hospitality talk about, it's not about using technology to necessarily replace, but enhance, and to make, give more power to our employees and be able to connect better with our guests. And we've heard this, in traveler sentiment. We've seen in guest feedback about people talking about new technology that brands are putting out there. We just wrapped up the busiest, time of year for our hoteliers, and travelers alike, the summer season. Everyone's out of school, everyone's traveling. I'm sure you have a very, very strong pulse being in your position. You have to, on, what both hotelier and travelers are feeling right now. How do you feel like your hoteliers are feeling going into the fall and winter months? And are you uncovering any guest trends, maybe some interesting guest trends between your Best Western guests?
Yeah, I mean, it was like you said, you read the headlines sometimes and you wonder about economic sentiment, but there it is, travel still going strong. People are prioritizing it. And what we're seeing is they're prioritizing experiences over things. And so even if you can't take the week-long summer trip that you would have abroad, what we're seeing is a lot of domestic travel. And so people are still making time for the road trip. Now, don't get me wrong, there are still people They're traveling around the world and they're making time for that. But in this time of economic uncertainty, even a small getaway for a weekend can be powerful. And that's what we see come through in the statistics on occupancy and even rate. And I think a couple trends that we've seen, multi-generational travel, and you hear about this sandwich generation, those that have the aging parents and the young kids. And they're recognizing that bringing them together, there's some powerful moments that can happen when you're not in the daily routine at home. And you alluded to it, Ryan, the moment when grandparents and grandchildren can have time without the parents, there's something beautiful that can happen there. And on vacation, there's a theory about when you're outside of your routine, moments are more memorable. And so travel naturally does that. So that multi-generational, the last minute road trip. Hey, we don't have anything going on. Let's get away for a night. And we're seeing that. And this is where we excel because many of our hotels are off the interstate or in a secondary market. So it doesn't take a lot to just drive an hour and go, and suddenly you feel like you're getting away. So those are just a couple examples of some of the trends that we're seeing and how we're capitalizing on it, taking care of our guests.
Well, I could tell you firsthand, I've definitely done one of those travel trends with the multi-generational travel, getting grandparents involved and my kids. And yeah, I can totally see the appeal to that. And, those last minute road trips, I think, speak to what you were talking about, Joelle, of, people prioritizing travel before personal items. And I know, listen, we had this podcast during the entirety of the pandemic, and those some of those episodes were not fun to produce, or conversations were hard to have, but there was always um, this hope that after we went through that there would be things that we could look back and say we've learned some lessons, or it's really shifted the way that we think about travel. And I think this is one of those things. I think people are even in a time of uncertainty are going, you know what? It might feel uncertain right now, but it certainly isn't as uncertain as it was back 5 years ago. Let's take that smaller maybe it's a little bit smaller vacation, or maybe it's a little closer to home, like you were talking about. So I expect those trends to continue to grow. Hopefully there's a little bit more certainty and people feel a little bit better about what's in their pockets and spend a little bit more. Our hoteliers would probably love to hear that on this podcast. But in that time, I do think it is comforting to know that that it remains a priority for people, and it will be one of the last things that people stop spending their money on. So let's switch gears to strategic partnerships. I have seen the Best Western brand in a lot of different places. It's been in the news celebrating some, most recently with the United Soccer League. How has these strategic partnerships really help fuel growth and build guest loyalty for the Best Western brand, Joelle?
Well, I'm a big believer in data to inform where we go. So, and listening. I mean, if you're a great marketer, if you deliver great hospitality, you listen to your guests and customers. And by listening, the data showed us that our BWH hotels, which is the name of the portfolio, our guests have a higher propensity to love sports, a passion for it, and they travel for it. And it's for the big games and the local ones. And since we are really tapping into this idea of being part of the heart of the community with local recommendations, United Soccer League was a perfect fit for us because they are providing opportunities to play and watch soccer, such a passion for this sport in communities, all over the US. So they have the professional leagues. They also have the USL Academy for youth and developing players. And so this commitment to not just watching the game and the professional aspect of it, but to cultivating it in younger generations. And people love to travel to see, this great sport and others. So it's been a really exciting partnership. We're bringing it to life together. We have an aspect of it called Hometown Heroes, where we're celebrating heroes in local communities that are giving back to this sport in special ways. And it's just another way that we find that when we tap into the fandom of our guests, we can create something really, really fun and great together.
It's so cool, soccer or football fans, some of the most passionate you would argue, fans out there. So to have that, to be associated with that brand, brilliant, brilliant move on your part, but really cool also that you get to celebrate, those heroes that you were talking about, and really looking forward to kind of seeing that strategic partnership, in the future flourish. Congratulations to you and your team on that. And speaking of congratulations, as marketers, Joelle, as fellow marketers, we love to celebrate things, right? What's the next project? What's the next new development? What's the next thing I can get out there talking about my brand, and how loud can I yell it, right? What upcoming developments, or projects, at BWH Hotels are you most excited about?
I think one first is really telling the story of this portfolio that we're tired of being the best kept secret. And, we heard through research, people think they know Best Western. Oh, I used to, travel there on road trips with my grandfather. But I think they don't know about some of the incredible new brands we have. One I am so excited about and love to highlight is Aiden. Aiden is a modern boutique style, very trendy hotel. It really embraces the local area. No two are the same. Great F&B options. One of my favorites to highlight is the Aiden San Antonio Riverwalk. A speakeasy in the basement. You push a painting and you're in. And Ryan, guess what the speakeasy is called? No vacancy. So tie right back to hospitality. So just really fun ways to bring aspects of a neighborhood into the hotel experience. Aiden is just one of those brands. We're expanding globally, so stay tuned. We've got a lot of expansion in the Middle East. We have a wellness resort, a sanctuary that just opened up, and that's part of our World Hotels property. So we're seeing this wellness trend, and it's bringing it into the experience. And then, of course, our latest extended stay brand, At Home. We just opened our first one, all new construction, gorgeous. Very all the necessities, but no unnecessary frills. So really efficient. So a lot of exciting brands in the portfolio and some new hotels coming into the pipeline too.
Well, I'd love to hear it, Joelle, because I think, between that time that you just spoke, you mentioned, F&B, wellness, simplicity, and efficiency. I mean, these are all hospitality and traveler trends. So you and your team, having brands that speak to not just, any type of traveler, but what's the trends that are fueling travel right now is really, really critical. And for any brand out there that is going to continue in a time where we talked about it, it's a little bit uncertain times right now, to making sure that you're putting yourself in a position for success, because what people are looking for when they travel, what they prioritize, is so important, is going to continue to be so important. And you and your team over there sound like you've done a fantastic job, and checking out all of those brands that BWH Hotels has to offer. I have such a privilege, and I'm so fortunate I get to talk to industry professionals like you. And, for my audience, I feel like I owe it to try to get as many nuggets or of wisdom or pieces of advice that I can, from industry pros like yourself. If you're a young hotel marketer listening to this podcast, trying to get inspiration or advice, what would you share with them as maybe your one piece of advice, moving forward?
Get back to the front lines, make time for it. Even if you go into a hotel and sit in the breakfast area and observe, I love visiting our hotels. I make time for it because the light bulb moments often happen right there in front of you. And all you have to do is listen and be humble enough to know that those frontline team members are telling their stories every day. And then it's our job just to amplify what they're doing. I'll give you a great example. Sitting in the breakfast area at a hotel recently, I recognized that the breakfast attendant wasn't just clearing dishes. They were greeting the guests. They were asking how their day was, making local recommendations. And I realized when you hire for a breakfast attendant, you want to hire as if they are the concierge of the hotel. And I realize that's asking a lot in this day with labor shortages and whatnot, but putting a different lens on how you hire as a hotel operator than from a marketing standpoint, when you've got operators bringing that lens into the everyday customer experience. And if you're a young marketer and you're observing that, you're going to find those stories and moments of connection happening. And all we have to do is shine a spotlight on it.
I love that. I mean, listen, the age old advice, that GMs used to share with me were, you ever really want to know how your guests are feeling, go sit in the lobby at breakfast because they're going to talk about it. Right. And I think it's such brilliant advice for a young marketer because I think we have, a tendency to think that a lot of the connection and maybe the biggest connections are done online behind a screen, maybe on social media or reviews, but really it's getting those stories, those moments, those experience like you were sharing out into a forum like that, and those connections are not they happen online, but the more powerful ones are the ones that happen on property. And then that turn into some amazing digital moments and stories online down the line, right? So that's, I think, just great advice. Thank you so much for sharing. As we wrap up today, we always like to gaze into our hospitality crystal ball, as I call it, get a glimpse into the future, what's ahead. How do you see the BWH Hotels brand 5-10 years down the line? What do you see, and what's your vision for the future, Joelle?
I think in 5 years, we are no longer the best kept secret. We're the best told story. And we are up there as a powerhouse that people had no idea. And I hope people say, where did this portfolio come from? Global expansion. And I think what we are uniquely positioned to do is help travelers seeking that experience that isn't your cookie cutter, where they want that really hyper local recommendation. And it's not just the thing that's the top of TripAdvisor. I mean, TripAdvisor is great. In the emergence of AI, you can get a lot of recommendations. But I like to think of us like the local bookstore. There's a shelf there and it has the local staff recommendations. So it's great books, but with the why and the insider scoop. And in 5 years' time, I think people will realize that any BWH hotel they stay at, they're going to get that experience. And watch out, world, because here we are.
All right. Well, we're excited. We'll keep our ears and eyes open to all those stories that you and your team over at BWH Hotels are sharing with us and telling us every single day. So thank you. I know we covered a lot of ground. Any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
I would just thank you for the opportunity, and what a joy to share someone that has the passion for connecting the world through hospitality like I do. So thanks, Ryan.
Absolutely. We're excited to hear it. Thank you so much for taking the time. And again, like I said, we're going to keep a close eye on the brand, and congratulations to all the work you and your team have been doing so far, and wish you a great 2025 and into the future over the next couple years. Thank you, Joelle.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right. And we'll talk to you next time on The Sweet Spot. Thank you for listening.